Welcome to Alaska EdVenture, Lessons from the K-12 Frontier, with your host, Dr. Meinert, Superintendent of the Fairbanks North Starborough School District. This podcast is your gateway to the heart of Alaska's educational landscape, where each episode features guests sharing their unique perspectives. We are bringing together voices that shape education in the last frontier. Join us as we explore the challenges, triumphs, and innovations in Alaska's K-12 classrooms.
Well, welcome back to the Alaska EdVenture podcast. I'm Dr. Luke Meinert, Superintendent of the Fairbanks North Starborough School District and host of this podcast, and incredibly excited about the conversation today with two of our co-hosts. I've got Greg Hill and Steve Taylor with Guys Read, Gals Read, and just a phenomenal offering within our school district, one of our wonderful community partners that's coming into our schools, working with our students and helping with our literacy efforts here in the school district. So welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. And I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself and tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, sure. I'm Greg Hill. I was the public library director here for 23 years for the borough. And I started the Guys Read program 18 years ago. We've been in the schools for 16, but we had to do it remotely for 2 years during COVID.
Yeah, and my name is Steve Taylor. I'm an outdoor recreation planner with the Bureau of Land Management. And prior to that, I was with the Fairbanks North Starborough Parks and Recreation Department for, I think, about 13 years.
Awesome. Well, a ton of community history here, and thanks for your work in the community, and then obviously the work that you're doing with our students in our schools. Greg, why don't you open it up and tell us a little bit about Guys Read, Gals Read? What is it?
Well, it's a program that is designed to entice kids to read for the fun of it. We know that in third, primarily fourth grade, most American boys stop reading for pleasure. They fall away from it for various reasons. And back in 2006, I wanted to find ways to attract families into the public library who didn't, who their image of a library was like what it was when they were growing up, and they've changed so much. They have so many new things to offer, and one way to do that was to go into the schools and read to the boys at lunchtime, get them excited about the books, of course, but also primarily to really plug this party we were going to have at the end of the program at the library, and that's how we set it up. So I approached a superintendent of this time, Ann Short, about it, and she said it sounded like a good idea to her as long as we would focus on fourth grade, because that was where the apex of boys dropping away from reading was. A lot of girls do too, but it's mostly the majority of American boys do. And so that's why we went with fourth grade, and we piloted it at 3 schools at Hunter, Denali, and Barnett. They were all Title I schools at the time, and it was a big success. But it was what we could see, and we did it. We had a party, at the end of the program, and that was a success. We were able to meet parents and show them new things at the library and stuff, while the boys had fun. We would have guy games, guy grub, and guy books. And the guy games were, we had a spitwad shooting range, which COVID's taken care of that. About popsicle stick bombs, beard growing using theatrical hair and K-Rose syrup, paper airplanes. So for 40 minutes, the boys could do whatever they wanted to with these activities. And they had a blast. It's real low-tech stuff. But then we would feed them cheese pizza and water. and while they're eating, we would have one of our authors Skype in, or we've actually had 4 times authors have come up for free to appear at Guys Read. And they would also go to the schools too for that. But then at the end, every boy would leave with a new book. And but what we saw when we started presenting the programs, the very first program at Hunter, was how engaged the boys were with these books. We used graphic novels because it's like Neil Gaiman, the author, says, comics are the gateway drug to reading. And they are. And reading a graphic novel is reading. You're reading text. You're also reading art, and you're reading icons. It's a multi-layered thing, but it's been shown time and time again to effectively lead to advanced reading. And but anyway, I thought the boys would be appreciative, that we'd have some trouble, maybe that, they may not be interested, but no, they were entirely engaged. and here it is 18 years later. I forget how many boys and girls, fourth grade boys and girls, it's like upwards of 15,000 that we've read to over the years. 3 have been asked to leave because they wouldn't shut up. 3 out of all those thousands. And that's not counting how many each of those kids got 8 reading. 8 readings or 16 readings. Anyway, it shows that that's where the power of the program really laid, more than it worked to get kids in the library, but golly, so when I retired, we needed to keep the program going. And so we formed a nonprofit and a 501c3 and kept the program growing with support from the community. In fact, the programs, even when I was at the public library and we started the program, I pretty much had to run it because my staff was completely maxed out on programs. So, but it's something I believed in, wanted to do. But we found that I digressed and lost my train of thought. It doesn't take.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'd like to jump in and just talk about that 4th grade focus area. I love that. The viewership that's been with us for a while, they've heard us talk a lot about the Alaska Reads Act. That's a K-3 focus, but I do feel like that 4th grade is the sweet spot because there can be this tendency, I passed that exam in 3rd grade, I'm good, I don't need to do any more reading, or, I don't need to focus on it. And so I love that you're continuing this interest on even more in 4th grade and focusing in on that level, saying, okay, we're not done. This is just the start of our journeys, and using graphic novels to do that. I have a young son. He's in 3rd grade currently, and I was telling him about your program, and so he can't wait until he's a big 4th grader and he gets to participate. But he loves graphic novels, and at first I was, as a parent, I don't know, a little suspect of graphic novels, I guess. I think I had some of the same tendencies that you were talking about, that maybe people think it's not like real reading, or, they're not going to develop their literacy skills, but it's been amazing. I mean, he puts hours and hours into reading graphic novels. He just finished the whole Babysitter's Club graphic novel series.
Within series. Yeah.
Within like 2 months, he just hammered it out. And I continually see him improving his reading skills, even when he goes back to larger nonfiction texts and stuff like that. So I just love that, you get that hook in the students, they continue to read and their skills progress. And so
that's true. And it's, there's just like anything else, there's good graphic novels and there's crappy graphic novels. And so we carefully preview, we probably choose maybe 1 out of 10 books that we preview that we use. That's probably being too. I said it too high. Maybe 1 out of 20. But what we find is what we're looking for are books that are they work really well as a visual item. That the text is big enough so that old guys with weak eyes can read them when we're reading it to the kids. But they also the sequencing of the panels is correct. Or it works well. There's not herky-jerky. That can disrupt it. The main thing we look for is this book fun? Is this a fun book? We're not looking for any messages other than, is it fun? And so some of them are really silly and some of them are semi-serious, but the whole idea is that they'll be engaging. We also look for books that are the first in a series, so that if you like this one, there's more coming, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's great. Steve, I want to talk a little bit about your involvement in the program. What do you do with Guys Read, Gals Read? And then maybe if you could deep dive into the logistics of when you go out to a school, what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So I was trying to remember this morning when I actually started reading, and
it's a number of years back.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I was trying to relate it to my son's age, because I think he was born when I was started reading with the Guys Read, and so I think it's probably been about 10 years.
That's what I was going to guess.
Yeah, and one of the most valuable components of this program for me personally has been that we always check out the books beforehand to read them before we go and read in the class, and so I would go and check the books out and bring them home, and I would read them with my son. And of course, he was like 1st grade, 2nd grade, and he loved the books. It was great. Some of them were maybe a little bit above his level, but he stuck with it, and it was always an exciting time for both of us to kind of read those books together and go through them. It's been a while. It's a program that it doesn't take a huge commitment of time. It's 2 weeks in the fall and 2 weeks in the spring, and about an hour during a lunch break, roughly is the time commitment to read, and it is just really a rewarding experience for me as a reader, just going in there and interacting with the fourth graders and seeing how excited they are for the program and how quickly they'll quiet down when you start reading the book and really tune into it. And I think part of it depends on the book too. Sometimes the books aren't quite as captivating, and you'll notice that in the reaction of the kids. But so the general gist of it is you arrive at the school about 10 minutes early just to make sure you kind of have everything set up. We usually do it with an overhead projector, project the book onto a screen, and usually it's a set of 2 volunteers, so one person reading and one person flipping the pages. Sometimes you can work with the other volunteer and select characters and kind of read together. That's worked well at times. Really depends on the comfort level of whoever you're reading with, but so kind of read through the book. We have usually about a half hour to read, and the goal is generally to get far enough into the book that we set the hook with the kids, and they get interested in checking the book out and reading it on their own, finishing the book.
It's a big part of the program is we donate 3 copies to the school library.
Yeah.
And so they've got copies there they can immediately get into.
Yeah, and that's always fun too. You definitely can tell the engagement of the book by how many kids line up to try and check out the book at the end of the session. And various librarians have different methods that they'll check those books out. Sometimes they do it by a lottery or first come first serve. Just depends on the librarian. But it's pretty neat. It's easy and it's always rewarding. Like I always leave with a little bit of an emotional high at the end of a session. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, after all these years, same here. Especially every reading, you can come out of it feeling a little better about yourself and feeling better about the world.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that as a volunteer, you normally check out the book prior to, so you have a little bit of familiarity with the book. Is there any other kind of training or background checks that you put folks through before they come into our schools?
Oh, well, we do a background check for the sex offender hotline. Mm-hmm. We also have on our sign-up form, we have a place for them to say, is there any legal reason why I should not be in school? Mm-hmm. Once we had a parent who was not supposed to be in contact with their kids, and we didn't know that, mm-hmm. but they said they wanted to be at this particular school because they wanted to, that's where their child went to school. Of course, we want to get you in there. Mm-hmm. Well, the school library or the school office staff said, oh, no, you stopped the person right before as they came in to sign in. Mm-hmm. And so after that, we thought we better do some better due diligence about that. So that's what we do.
Great. Yeah. Making sure our students
because we're visitors. We're not volunteers technically, so we don't have to go through the full background check. We're never alone when we're doing the program. When the 2 guys are there, there's always somebody from that school staff present, so that if there was somebody gets a nosebleed or they're being a little too loud,
help with crowd control and classroom management.
Well, sometimes the books are made to get the kids loud.
Of course. It's part of the fun and it's part of their recess, right? So.
Okay, well, I know once we did the Guinness Book of Records to the Extreme. Real popular book. I wish they come out with another volume of that. Yep. But one of the things was the world's loudest burp. Of course, we're doing it at lunchtime.
Fourth grade boys. What could go wrong?
Well, at lunchtime. Yes. So we're all, we get to that, it's at lunchtime, but which helps because their mouths are full, their butts are planted, and they're being entertained. But we get to the world's loudest burp. We say, okay, well, guys, I bet if we all burp at the exact same time, we'll have the loudest burp ever in the history of Joy School. and so you just channel it, Mm-hmm. It was so sometimes it's rowdier than others.
Yeah.
But generally, like I said, 16 years of reading in the schools and 3 kids having to leave. Generally, we were reading. If a couple boys are talking to each other, we just go over and stand behind them while we're reading. That shuts them up.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a super impressive track record. I mean, 3 kids having a bad day in the course of 15 years and the amount of students that you've reached, super impressive. And so if I understand correctly, the program started out as guys read, but now there's a gals read component. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, we did, like I said, this Dr. Short wanted us to focus on fourth grade boys, which we did. And but then and for the first couple of years, we were able to convince the girls that it was sure nice to not have the boys around at lunchtime. You know, if some of the teachers would bring that up, the girls said, yeah, it is kind of a whole different vibe. And but actually, girls wanted to be treated the same. And so we it's like 3 years after we began Guys Read, we started Gals Read too. And it's pretty much the same. One of the things we do when we have teams of men go in and read at the elementary schools, the idea is that Steve's team would go in and read to them the first day, and then the second day that we read twice a week at each school. The second day, my team would go in and read. So we'd have a different team of men going in every time, so they'd see all these men who like to read. And when we go in, we just say, hi, my name is so-and-so, or my name is Greg, and I like to read because I'm a librarian. If I'm a librarian, I can buy any book I want. I like books about battles and space travel and comic books, and this is my partner, Steve. And he would explain who he is, and, you know, just here's who we are in life. But, you know, 10, 15 seconds of explanation and getting into the books.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's super powerful, seeing adult role models that also like to read, that, you know, especially in that fourth grade level, they're starting to get more socially aware of who they are and breaking down that barrier that you can still be cool and be a good reader and enjoy reading. I think that's really important.
Yep, that's what we also, when we're buying the books, we're looking for new things because some of the kids are already good readers. But we know that Diary of a Wimpy Kid, you know, that's been around a while and it's been read a bunch. And so we need to get something fresh and new to engage those good readers as well as the guys that are still catching up.
Yeah. So you have teams of men that go in and read to the boys. Do you have teams of women that go in and read to the girls then? Is that how that works?
It is. It's sometimes, I tell you, one of the problems we've really run into is we haven't had enough women volunteers. We've had trouble recruiting women volunteers for, we don't know exactly why, but that's something we're working on. So sometimes we have men go, we're doing Gals Read right now. And I was at lad school yesterday running the projector while one of the women readers read. And that's okay because the girls need to see men who like to read too.
Sure.
But what we generally try to do is to have the same women go to the same school each time to read, and they form a bond as opposed to the men going, a different set of men going in. Because girls have a lot of female role models who like to read.
Yeah.
And so it's getting that bond is more important. So that's the only difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a different set of books too. You know, we're looking at, this will be a great gal book, this will be a great guy book, or this one could go either way, you know. Sometimes the brother sister protagonists and stuff.
Yeah.
But they are. The books are age specific. They've all received positive reviews in major review journals like Hornbook or Kirkus or School Library Journal. And they've all been vetted by the school district before we place the order to buy them.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And Kathleen Edwards, I believe.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Heavily involved and helps out on the school district side. So great partnership together and ensuring that this is working properly for both sides. I understand that there's a bit of expansion that we're looking at and potentially going into other grades. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's been a long-term goal of ours is to do that. But it takes money. Yep. And so we're having to develop plans on how we're going to increase the donations, because all our funding comes from local businesses and organizations, service groups, and private individuals in town. And but that's because it's most of our budget is the books. Almost the vast majority of what we spend is on the books. So it's what we're looking at as a group. And thinking, how could we form like at least a pilot program to see how this would work for third grade? But it's we're also we're very fortunate. We got a Alaska Community Foundation grant to hire the Foraker Group to give us, as a board, strategic planning training, which happens this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
All day Saturday is what we're going to be doing, is strategic planning. But it's something that we've needed to do to get more organized and to help us map out how we could expand. Because for years and years, we've wanted to expand to third grade because we know that drop off in reading begins then with some boys. Some it doesn't hit till fourth, but it would be good to get to third grade if we could.
Yeah. So, Steve, are you looking forward to the strategic planning? I know you're on the board, and so would love to hear a little bit about your board role in the organization as well.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. I'm relatively new to the board. I joined in I think October, so I'm still getting my feet under myself on the board, and I think this strategic session will be a good one to kind of really dive into the specifics of the board and really understand what's going on at the more organizational level of the program, which I haven't been involved in throughout this process yet.
Excellent.
Well, it's been all our board development has been very nebulous. It's kind of driven by crises.
Sure.
COVID. How do we deliver a program?
Yep.
And so we had to come up with a way. What we did was we developed our own in-house way of developing videos of readers reading that the kids at home could get at, or they could be accessed through school or anywhere else. So the way it works is that we would record scan all the pages of the first part of a book we're going to use. We never use the whole book because we have to be careful about copyright with that sort of stuff. But we're under fair use provisions because we're not making money off of it, and we're not adulterating it. It's being used for educational. It's all the 4 measures of fair use. So, and
I think some of those recordings are still up on your website, if I remember correctly.
They are. We've kept them up. Yeah. What we do is we'd scan the pictures, and then a volunteer would record themselves reading it, and then we would we'd do that on Zoom. We record the books, scan the books in what's that other program? Anyway, it was one program we'd send it to. We would record the person reading in Zoom. That would go to our editor. He'd take out the burps and the pauses. He's also on our board, and then we would mount it on our website, which is guysgalsread.org.
There we go. Yeah, go check it out. I was looking at it earlier in the week as I was prepping for this podcast, and excellent website. I mean, it's amazing the amount of work and kind of community focus that you have for such a grassroots organization. And so if folks are interested, they're listening to the conversation today and they're like, I think that's something that I could plug into, either volunteering with their time, or maybe they've got financial resources that they'd like to dedicate to Guys Read, Gals Read. How do they go about doing that?
Well, the best way is to go to the guysgalsread.org, and there's How I Can Help section. And so there's the online volunteer sign-up form for reading, and there's also, the information about how you can make a contribution through PayPal to Guys Read, Gals Read. And we could certainly use more than that. We've had some great sponsors, very long-term sponsors throughout the years, and also organizations that have been very generous in kind. We try to buy all our books locally as much as we can. And so we used to buy from Gulliver's until Gulliver's went out, but we'd also buy from the comic shop. The comic shop's been helping out because they both of them would give us a real deep discount and cover the shipping, but also Dateline has given us a really good price break in printing the bookmarks we hand out. We make bookmarks for each of the books that we give to the kids at the end of the reading session, just to remind them of the books, but also to remind them, I had a little fun with this book, didn't I? But anyway, they give us a break, but also, gosh, I don't want to go into the sponsors, but I'll leave somebody out, but
I know I was going to put you on the spot, but go to the website. There's a long list there of all the sponsors, and definitely thankful for their contributions.
Very
to the
much
organization.
So. Yeah, but the thing is, we've won 2 national awards, and that's because we entered the competition for 2 national awards, and we haven't entered competitions for that for the last 8 or 10 years. But it's just the concept really works. It's been picked up. They used it in Nome until COVID hit. It was picked up by a library program system in Maryland. But that's one of our other big goals is to promote this concept because it really, really works. And because we know based on how well the books are received. We know that for the last 18 years, the Guys Read, Gals Read books have been the most popular in circulation in all the elementary schools.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we know it really clicks. we like, so part of it is try to make this exclusivity with the guys reading is just guys. It's not boys reading, it's guys reading. Big guys reading, little guys. But, only those fourth grade guys can read those books till they've all had a chance to read them.
Yep.
And after we've read them, only the fourth grade boys can read it. And so it's kind of then once they've read it, it opens up to the rest of the school. But we're trying to make that exclusivity.
Yeah, I love that.
there.
Yeah, constrict the supply and the demand will follow. So good business principles at hand there. So, well, I am going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for your partnership with the school district and your willingness to come in and talk a little bit more about Guys Read, Gals Read. I hope folks that are listening to this plug in with your organization. It's making an amazing difference here in Fairbanks locally. And so great opportunities to either volunteer your time or volunteer your resources. I know the organization would sure appreciate it, and our students would definitely appreciate more copies of books in their libraries and having more volunteers come into their schools. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing on behalf of the community and the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. And I'll bring this Alaska Adventure podcast to an end, and we'll catch you next time. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for embarking on this Alaska Adventure with us. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll meet you on the next episode.